In California's Central Valley, farmers have spent much of the last 20 years praying for rain. But then came this winter of relentless rivers in the sky, enough to bring a long-dead lake back to life and drown over 150 square miles of farmland and counting. So now, they pray for the water to stop.
It is mind-blowing to realize that if you'd stood here for the last couple of generations, you'd be watching the sunset over dusty fields of cotton or alfalfa or pistachio trees, and now it is waterfront property.
Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to freevoice.io. What you see here was the sentence or headline that got my attention, where it says, California atmospheric rivers bring dead lake back to life. And I went, no way they're going to make this into a positive. There's no way they're going, it seems like a positive the way they're positing this subheadline below the main article, brings a dead lake back to life. What could be better than that? In drought-stricken for 20 years California. I thought there's just no way. They're going to, of course, turn this into some sort of climate change disaster article. And very subtly, of course, that's exactly what they do. They are evil genius. This sort of thing proves the download. Even a lifelong minion like this David Weir, you may recognize him. He's been around forever. He's hosted shows. He's not like top-tier anchor. I don't even know who the anchors are. Is the greasy man, the plastic greasy man on ABC News, that David Muir? I don't know. I mean, I honestly haven't looked at world news. I'm pretty sure Laura O'Donnell, Tostanta. I don't care to pronounce her name properly either, but I think it's O'Donnell. I think she's still on CBS. This is a sub-minion that's been around forever. We used to think in the old days like everybody had full knowledge and they're in on it. No, they just serve what the not milk wants. Even this guy, I mean, he's their chief climate reporter, whatever. He has an idea, of course, that his bread is buttered if he can drum up climate crisis stories, and he kind of knows why he's there, but he's not in on it. It's more the download. If you put him on a lie detector test, I think he would really believe that he has to believe it, that this climate crisis is a absolute problem and is exactly what the Obama administration says. Now, look, obviously this is on Free Voice. There's no way I could talk about this. Minimum a banner ad, but in terms of what I want to say, there's no way. I don't think it would let the video load. Okay, there has been more severe weather, and maybe even 10% of it is from pollution, or China added 100 million cars in the last 10 years, or 10 days. Or maybe it is a bit from, okay, but most of it is sun cycles or natural cycles. Of course, they use it to push forth an agenda. This guy, he believes in it. They all believe in it. It's proof of the download.
And this may just be the beginning, because behind those clouds over there, the Sierra Nevadas are so packed with snow. It's 260% above normal, and sooner or later that's going to melt, which is only going to make this flooding worse and last longer.
Hear how he started that segment? This is just the beginning. So people stuffing their chicken fingers in their mouth, watching on TV. Honey, it's going to get worse for these poor people. This could just be the beginning. And see the snowpack on those mountains there? It's all going to flood, and it's going to get worse and worse. Guess what? Ecologically, what happened is the greatest thing of all time for California. Do they talk about that? No. Joe Biden, when he was the Deliverance vice president under the Obama administration, they actually, do you remember this? Probably not. They sent him out to a California mountain or a ski slope, but he stood there and he said, there should be snow all around us. There should be this and the drought and all this stuff about drought. There should be snowpack. He actually was standing where the snowpack should be, saying what an ecological crisis it is that there wasn't any. Now they have the snowpack, and they're turning what is incredibly positive for wildlife, animals, trees, plants. The entire ecosystem is based from the snowpack. They're making it into a negative. These sons of bitches are so evil, genius, nasty. At the same time, it is fascinating to analyze their tricks. Headline: thousands of acres are underwater in California, and the flood could triple in size this summer. Corcoran, California. Look how they have underscored. Torrents and torrents, underscored. Why? Of rain have drowned, underscored. Why are they underscoring drowned? Okay, that very negative. Goes into the subconscious, unconscious, very negative. But they do stay somewhat consistent with this theme. Where does it say? Third line, second line into third. Central Valley this winter and has resuscitated a lake that vanished decades ago. Has resuscitated a lake that vanished decades ago, which the other headline got my attention about a revival of a dead lake. I thought, well, there's no way they're going to be positive in this. It's almost like they're presenting the positive on purpose to ruin it, to destroy it, almost saying to someone's subconscious, even when they're seemingly a positive, we're going to remind you it's a massive negative. There's a reason why they're like linking the positive to the negative. It's unbelievable.
The last time it flooded this dramatically here was 1983, and it took 2 years to dry out. And this time, in addition to the dripping time bomb in the mountains, Corcoran is many feet lower in elevation.
Come on, sir. In addition to the dripping time bomb. Did you write that yourself, Bill? Come on, sir. The dripping time bomb. They're such hypocrites. They're such hypocrites. Okay, this has only been going on, this flooding, or this lake has been back for, 6 weeks or so. Look, the birds have returned. The insect populations are up, which leads to birds, which leads to other wildlife, plants and animals gain. They should be thrilled about this. They're showing you. Look at these birds have never been in this part of California for probably 10 or 15 years. It's like the ibis with the long beaks that pick into the mud. I mean, how did birds even find this lake? How did they know it was there? They had to establish elsewhere 15 or 20 years ago. This is the greatest thing of all time if they're serious about the climate. They're such hypocrite assholes.
So the ground has literally sunk in some places by 10 or 15 feet over the past decade. That has literally changed the topography of the historical lake bed. Some places are lower even than they were the last time there was a big flood event. So there's quite a few unknowns.
That is UCLA scientist Daniel Swain, and last summer he published a paper that found weather whiplash will become only more extreme on an overheating planet. And worst case, Tulare Lake could grow into a vast inland sea.
Let me go back to that article they just flashed up for a few seconds. That was UCLA scientist Daniel Swain, and his mother's very proud. Climate change is increasing the risk of a California mega flood. Wait a second. Let me get this straight. You guys came out here for 20 years and said, California drought, climate change, California drought, climate change, California drought, drought. Now they're getting that much needed rain, and it's a problem. What? Because of climate change. Oh, look at this. It says drought right away in this article, despite the recent prevalence of severe drought, okay? But then if you go 3 lines down, he has it in quote, mega flood. Now, what could happen now, you have whiplash. They win no matter what happens. No matter what happens, they can put a George Soros term on it so they win. Now we got the rain and the snowpack that we really want. No, that's climate whiplash. We can run with this. I don't even know what to say. It's just unbelievable. It really is. All right, look at this guy. This is the guy that Bill Weir from CNN goes to back the story. Daniel Swain, and at the bottom it says UCLA climate scientist. Look at him. That ain't no climate scientist. That ain't nothing but a student. Look at him. See, look, CNN, if you're going to go get an expert witness to back up your bullshit stories, at least make sure it's a real scientist, not a student masquerading that they've already graduated. And this isn't even a grad student. Look at him. It looks like an undergraduate. I mean, Mr. Gambini brought his girlfriend, Miss Vito, up as an expert witness. This is worse. This is a freaking student. He ain't even graduated yet. Look at him.
Will become only more extreme on an overheating planet. And worst case, Tulare Lake could grow into a vast inland sea.
Worst case. Worst case, it could grow into an inland sea. So worst case, so if they get the rain that they need every year and there's no more drought and all the plants and animals and birds are happy and all the greenery comes back that snuffs out the CO2 because more oxygen is created. See, that's a worst case. So what if there's a little, if first of all, it's not going to be an inland sea with cargo ships going up and down. What you're looking at there it's flat. Okay. You ever drive I-5 from Los Angeles to San Francisco? It's flat as a pancake. All right. Maybe at its deepest, this recreated lake is 2 feet deep. Most areas 10, 14 inches. You could walk it, no problem. Can't even swim it. But it's going to become an inland sea with giant oil tankers going back and forth between San Francisco and Los Angeles. What a bunch of bullshit.
The levee that we're standing on is called the Corcoran Levee. It's a 14.5-mile levee that protects the city of Corcoran, the 2 state prisons, the residents here. There's about 22,000 residents and about 8,000 inmates. And so the work behind us that you'll see over here, with the tractor work in the distance, they're actually building the levee up another 4 to 5 feet. God willing, that'll protect the city of Corcoran.
There's a race against the melt, basically.
That's exactly
right.
So we've been fortunate with a very slow, mild spring so far.
Man, am I glad I looked up how to spell levee. That guy would have been all over. I almost wrote Levy. That would have been dyslexic and ignorant. Guys, here's the key. This guy, sheriff or whatever, comes right out and he says, we have a levee. It's been here for decades. It has a name, the Corcoran Levee. So let me get this straight. You have a levee, which means this flooding is normal to you. Or why would you have put the levee in 30 or 40, 50 years ago, whenever it was? So this sort of potential flooding is something you know about because you have the levee, but they're making it seem like an unexpected crisis. Yeah, good job, assholes.
So it takes a lot of jobs for people. That's a lot of food that we provide for up and down California and all around the nation. It's pretty scary.
And unfortunately, this is just the beginning, right? Because
very beginning.
The big melt hasn't even really begun.
Yes. This is just from the rain. The snow melts. There's nowhere for it to go besides here.
What I appreciate more than anything is the sincerity of how seriously she takes the upcoming crisis. It really warms your heart knowing there are people like this out there in the world, and we're not alone. And no, I'm not going to parrot back what we learned in the truth community 12 years ago. Duper's delight, duper's delight. No, we don't do that anymore. We don't parrot back terms and phrases and how we were used in the past. Duper's delight. I'll say download. Not that, she was told what to say and everybody's in on it. No. Maybe the NPC acts like this. It's more download in frequency than duper's delight. Yeah. But as I was watching this, I was thinking about what we used to do 10 years ago, and I thought that is potentially the fake baby from the Brussels airport bombing. Remember that guy had a plastic thing, and he took his fake baby, and he slapped his knee, and he said, come on. He slapped his knee to his wife like she was a dog. He said, let's get out of this fake airport bombing. And he picked up that plastic baby with the plastic arm that never moved out of position. It was a plastic baby that didn't even have a joint at the elbow. It was one solid piece of plastic from one solid mold poured in Mexico City. And he took his fake baby. I've been watching this baby. I know it's very important to you. So it's the real thing, which makes it even worse. Bill knows the scripted elements that need to be in every one of these types of stories. This, at the end, he has to work in the human element. He went to journalism school for like 4 years, master's degree, all for a 3x5 card that shows him the exact same script to run on every single news story every single time. Make sure you get in the human element. Would you pay for that education, Bill? $250,000 at the University of Virginia? For what? What I could have given you on a 3x5 card after one correspondence class from Bangladesh saying Marketing 101, you've got to show the human element. So he picked these two up down the road. He says, hey, you two over here pumping gas, come over here. You know who I am? I'm Bill Weir. Never saw you before. That's okay. Would you like to earn $20 a piece? Oh, you have a baby. That's $20 each and $20 for the baby. Okay, $60. Fine. CNN can afford it. You know the flooding down the road, right? Yeah, we know the flooding. My sister-in-law works at the avocado plant down there, and she can't go to work temporarily because it's kind of flooded out. Okay, great. We need you to come and stand at the edge of this road. That's the beginning of the flooding. Your whole family's going to stand there, and as much as you can, act concerned. You want us to bring our baby? Of course we need the baby. That's why you get the extra $20. We need as many people to see this story to think that this is a human tragedy and crisis, to bring in the human side. And then we link it to climate change. Then we link it to global warming, which we can't use anymore because that just says warming. And we need to win if both things happen. If it gets cold, we win. Climate change. If it gets hot, we win. We no longer use global warming because that was only one way to win. Now we win if there's rain and drought. There's drought, it's climate change. There's a lot of rain, which is good for everybody. It's climate change. We win no matter what. He's doing the My Cousin Vinny. Look at this. He's put his hands out for emphasis, not to the damn sheriff deputy or whoever. He's doing that for the audience watching, to emphasize whatever's being said here, whatever lies and bullshit is being said here. He's actually doing the identical, the My Cousin Vinny. He'll probably remembers they taught him that at the University of Virginia. So whenever you want to emphasize something, it's on that same 3x5 card he paid $250,000 for. He says, you just put your hands out. They showed it to you in My Cousin Vinny, and the whole audience will know to take, even if it's only subconscious or unconscious awareness, they will take note to what's being said, even if the conscious mind is just shoving chicken fingers into its mouth. Guys, I realized I should have emphasized something earlier, so I'll tell you about it now. I lived out there for 6 years. Not everybody knows how California works. Here's the deal. The entire ecosystem, life itself in California is dependent on the snowpack. And I'm talking life itself for the people in Los Angeles, everybody there, everything, every living creature. Nothing is more important. Well, the sun is always kind of important, but other than the sun itself, nothing is more important to California by a factor of 100 than the snowpack. It's where all of California gets its drinking water from. The snowpack is everything. To get a humongous snowpack is beyond positive news. For if anything were real, every news agency would be reporting it in the most positive light there is, not trying to connect to climate change, tie it into climate change, somehow figure a way to tie it into climate change, tie it into climate change. I mean, what more needs to be said? It's life itself, and they're making it into a bad thing. Incredible. Here, Bill is pretending to be on some sort of Skype with that student scientist, or a FaceTime with that student scientist from UCLA. But what if he was on with me? There he is. But say that was me. And Bill, let me tell you what climate change is. It's a psyop, Bill. Pay attention to the words coming out of my mouth, Bill, and I'll explain it to you. You start small. Global warming. Start small. It's always a small intrusion through the ranks. And then you expand it. Once you get your slimy appendage, your octopus appendage in the door, then you expand it. Then it becomes climate change. And that gives you two ways to win. Now, if it gets really cold, you win. That's climate change. Not just if it gets warm. Then you expand it and you link it. What can we do next? Well, of course, it's easy to get people to link drought with climate change and drought with global warming. Now, if it rains, you link that to global warming. And you just keep expanding. So basically every single thing that ever will come out of a cloud per, say, 2025 and onward, everything that comes out of a cloud is linked to climate change. If there's one piece of hail that comes out of a cloud, it will be linked to climate change. Everything will be linked. These are very patient sons of bitches. It's a slow creep. It's a gentle habituation, so people don't notice what's happening. And then the people start going along with it. So soon, if a farmer gets one bit of hail that takes out one kernel of one piece of corn, he will believe it. He'll run around and damn anybody that doesn't believe in global warming and climate change. These sons of bitches are sophisticated. They're sophisticants. Matt, that word doesn't exist. You're either dyslexic or ignorant. I make up my own words on the fly. I don't give a shit. See, where will they stop? Where will they stop? Okay, once they link all of every single atmospheric condition to climate change and global warming, every single thing will be linked. They'll have a little George meeting. Let him speak. And should we go farther? Should we link everything? This seems ridiculous, but they're already doing it. For 10 years, they've been trying to link cow farts. Well, not even trying. Basically saying cow farts, carbon, global warming, climate change. They're not trying. They've been doing that. So where will they stop? They see, that's what gives the reality away. That's what gives this not no thing away. It never stops. Is it totally out of the question to the old guard that they will someday link your farts, You go into Sonic, every Sonic will be taxed out the ass. You get your dogs and burgers covered in beans and shit and onions. Every Sonic will be put out of business because there'll be a carbon tax saying, you eat this son of a bitch on this roll, you're going to be farting up a storm. But I'm in my own home, the private, and nobody's even around. My kids and the wife are out. I'm just enjoying the NFL. Don't matter. That fart will get out in the atmosphere, and it will be a contributing factor to climate change. You take this chili dog off premises, you're going to pay. I see Bill still shaking his head listening to me. Keep listening, Bill. I'm giving you pearls here, boy. You don't have to work for CNN for the rest of your life. I sense there's a real person in you, Bill, somewhere. Right now, you are a wooden piece of shit Pinocchio. You wooden Pinocchio. But there's real boy Pinocchio potential in you, Bill. You just got to get out from under the dragon's wing. Can you get out? When somebody goes that far under the dragon's wing, serves the Minister of Information for 3 decades like Bill, can you get out? I sense there is good in you, Bill, like the last scene in Star Wars. But you got to be real boy Pinocchio and drop the wood. You got to change your life, Bill. Stop pushing this climate change bullshit. I don't care what they pay you at CNN. Go wash dishes if you have to. Go help those poor people down in this part of California bail out water. You know the famous old saying, before CNN, chop wood, carry water. After CNN, chop wood, carry water. It's that demonic shit in between when you're at CNN where you lose yourself, Bill. Now, Bill, that's all I can do for you, boy. You got to get out and do it on your own. You got to become real boy Pinocchio on your own, and I wish you the best. Thanks for listening.
Okay, everybody. Today's going to be a little different. I'm going to do a different kind of video today that I don't normally do. I'm going to do a kind of a movie review, criticism, breakdown, and kind of a what it really means kind of a thing. So, this movie, you may be familiar with it, Brainstorm, came out in 1983. It's starring Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, Louise Fletcher, and Cliff Robertson, among several more other stars that you would recognize at the time. Now, this movie was Natalie Wood's last movie. She actually died during the production of this movie. That was in 1981. She died November 29th, 1981. And they didn't actually release this movie for 2 years because of they were actually going to cancel it after her death. And there was a lot of rigmarole between MGM and Lloyd's of London, the insurers of the film. And so it was held back of production for 2 years because of those reasons. It finally was released September 30th, 1983, under MGM. I've had some interesting things with that, with the date of release, of course. September was a 9, and the 30th is a 3, and then 83, that's an 11. You know what I'm saying there? So you got that going on for you, 9/11. So now a quick overview of the movie if you've never seen it. It is from 83, so it's a little bit older. There will be some spoilers in this commentary, but the commentary is not entirely about the movie. It's about more a certain thing in the movie that I believe has more implications that with new eyes to be seen here. The overview of it is Christopher Walken and Louise Fletcher are scientists at a private laboratory, and they're developing a device that can read your thoughts, more or less, and and your experiences and everything like that. So they developed this thing that can pick up your brain waves, and they can record them and then have for playback for other people to see. So they can, for instance, they record a roller coaster ride, a guy riding on a horseback, and then riding in a Formula One race car, and a motorcycle, and several different things that the test guy who's got the first original thing on it for their beta test, more or less, and it's then they So it can basically, it just records what somebody sees, and you can play it back to somebody on that thing, and it not only does it see, but it can also, you get taste, feeling. It feels like you're really there. I mean, this is virtual reality plus. This is and this was back in '83. They had this idea, and not only that you could taste and touch and feel, but experience emotions as well. They discover. So if you were angry or whatever, and that was recorded, it would the anger and emotions would come through as well. So it was a lot of stuff was on this play to this thing. Now this movie was for its time, it came out with a lot of these other sci-fi fiction movies that were all space related kind of ones, and alien monsters and all this other kind of thing, and and their marketing on it wasn't terrific, so it didn't fare too well at the box office upon its release, but it has kind of over the years developed people that were interested in it. However, because of its the legal problems it had originally with Lloyd's of London and MGM, it was very limited release for the home market. I don't think that they made a VHS for it at the time of that, and it was maybe came on HBO, Showtime, or something like that in the late '80s, maybe '89 or somewhere in that neck of the woods, and that was about it. So it kind of went into you could order it, but it wasn't like it was sold like in Walmart or at the video Blockbuster or whatever back in the day. It was just so it was kind of one of those movies that was kind of a little bit harder to find. So it made it kind of people forgot about it and all that. Christopher Walken's one of his the middle of his career movies, I suppose. I mean, he was very young, not very young, but Christopher Walken was born in what did he born? 43. Yeah, he's 43. Natalie Woods. This was supposed to be her comeback movie, because she kind of had been on hiatus from her last film, and she was born in July 20th, 1938. And so this film she was 43 years old at the time of production of the movie in 1981. And so it was supposed to be her comeback, like I said, but she never was able to finish the movie when they had filmed principal production back east, and then they had come out to Santa Barbara for a break, and it was during that break that Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, and Robert, I can't think of his name at the moment. They were on his boat though, and she fell overboard at some point during the night, and she perished by drowning. And that was a pretty big deal at the time. And you go back and look into that. There was quite a bit of controversy on how that all came about. Okay, moving forward from that. So the movie was, limited release and all that stuff at the time. But I saw this movie in the movie theaters because we would go to these movie theaters in downtown, and we had this dome called the Century Theaters. And there's two domes there, and they had originally been built for plays and stuff in the '60s, and we would go there, and of course it was the time of the video arcades and movies. We didn't have any of the other fancy stuff we got these days, so we would go there and pay for one movie ticket, and we'd watch every movie in the place, and there was like 6 or 8 theaters in that, playing 6 to 8 movies every day. And we would spend all day there for $2 or $3, dirt cheap. And so we would every movie that came to the theater, basically we seen whether we liked them or didn't like them or anything else. So this movie was not one I don't remember anticipating it in any way, but we saw some trailers for it that I can recall, and whatever other movies were playing in that theater that day was probably what we went for, but we watched this movie, and it turned out, I think it was a very good movie. Even at the time, the technical filming of it was very interesting. They have two ways of filming the movie, in 70 or 65 millimeter and 35 millimeter. So all the scenes with the that were, you know, like we were seeing through the this VR headset thing, they were all filmed in that 65 millimeter, so they had a kind of a fisheye look to them, very very crisp and clear, and just very in your face. And they had a very loud soundtrack on those parts. So the technical editing on it was very well done in that movie, and it won an award for I think it won an award for the technical thing. I didn't write that down here, but let me see. We got the buzz right there. All right, so this is in this scene. This is when they're first talking to the director of the laboratory, Cliff Robertson. He's kind of just cut off a little bit on the side here, there, like that, right there. And he's told them to knock their socks off, knock his socks off with what they developed, and they put the VR headset on him, and he experiences all this roller coaster and all this other stuff. And, you know, like I said, it seems very realistic and very like you're there. I mean, it's direct input to input was, you know, it's like I said, it's VR, but it's you know, VR on steroids. It's because you have all the feelings and everything else in it. Well, it's discovered later a little bit that when they're doing some further testing on it, that not only can you transfer these the feelings or the visuals of it, and, you know, they have also have a test where they eat some food, and the person eating the food and the other person wearing the connected thing can taste the food of whatever he eats and everything. But then it comes in another scene that hold on here. So in this scene, there's an underlying story in the movie. Of course, Christopher Walken was married to Natalie Wood. They're in the process of divorce and selling their house and all this other stuff, and you know, she's kind of become cold and aloof and more worried about work and everything, and so, you know, they've gone their separate ways, kind of a deal. But in this scene, he records her just sitting there, and just tells her to put it on and just just clear your mind. Well, so she does that and whatever, and then he takes the headset off of her, plays it back, and puts it on himself, and then does the playback of it, and he just lashes out at her. You know, she says, you know, take the house, take the car, kids, or whatever, take everything, you know, and because her emotions that she was thinking at the time was she was angry at him because when she came into the room, he ignored what she said was because she's developing the headset to make it more practical, and she brought in a new model of it, and he just threw her off and said, here, put this on your head. So she was just really angry, and so when he played back all the anger that she was feeling, he experienced through her eyes. So it really, it was, you know, it was a enlightening moment for them to realize that not only are we recording what people see and what we taste, but the feelings are actually, and my emotions are actually being recorded too. So I mean, it was like even more of a breakthrough. This thing is, it's a very, very powerful tool to not only the applications are pretty much endless for this thing, you know, especially now, you know, they can. Not only can you can experience what somebody else sees, but you can experience what somebody else feels at the same time. So that spurs him on to knowing that, he starts investigating more this feelings thing, and realizes, well, you know, maybe there's something that I couldn't convey to her. So he takes and records the whole good memories that he has, all these good memories he has of her, and seeing it, you know, the things the way seeing through his eyes, seeing her through his eyes, and how he felt the feelings of love and everything, and, you know, then there's a bunch of clip cut scenes of like the wedding and going on vacation to Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hill, and those kind of things. All these loving little things, and then he takes it to her late at at the house that they're selling, and has her play the tape, and then she's seeing it through his eyes and the emotions that he feels. And so she realizes that he's not so cold and aloof and everything else like you thought he was, and it's very it's very tugs at the heartstrings quite a bit, because they so they have a love story that's pretty deep in there between them. Roger, Siskel and Ebert, they were reviewers at the time, movie reviewers. They gave Ebert said that the movie he liked it. It was technically good, good special effects and all, but he said the characters were flat, and that they spent too much time with the special effects and didn't give enough time to character development. I have to. They gave it 2 stars out of 4. I disagree with it, with his, and that's his contemporary at the time of the movie was making, produced, and I don't agree with his rating, but that's just me. At the time that I saw in the theater in '83, it was I don't think I was really watching the character development so much, and the story between the walking in woods, but because we were there for the sci-fi element of it, and that's what we were there for. But having watched it again recently here, I felt quite a bit of I thought there's plenty of character development, and you really got the feeling between them, that the lost love that they had, and then when they were able to see each other's the feelings that they had for each other by being able to put themselves in each other's shoes, so to speak, by this machine. It was very moving. I felt that they had a very strong connection, and you could feel I shed a tear or two during that whole part of it. And Louise Fletcher's character was a very strong character. She, and being the third person, Cliff Robertson, his role he played was good enough for that. And another guy that had a very good role in it too. He's kind of a supporting actor. I can't think of his name off the hand, but you'd recognize him. The guy that originally was doing all the beta testing on making the tape that you send around to the executives and all that. He had an encounter with a woman and recorded it with the thing, with the headset. And he had a bootleg copy. He was sending around to the lab, to all the guys in the lab, kind of so you could experience this sexual experience, vicariously through this thing. And of course, you could feel everything and see everything and taste it. You get the point. He gives it to this one guy who's like a secondary guy in the lab, and the guy takes it and watches it and like, oh yeah, this is wonderful, but he takes and cuts out the climax, so to speak, of the guy and the girl, and he splices it together into a loop, and he takes it home, and he's watching that. So when at the same time, that's when Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood are having rekindling their marriage and all, and they have a wonderful night and all this stuff. And then they get a phone call in the morning. They rush over to the other guy's house. They did the loop tape, and he's like just twitching. He's like, he had just climax after climax after climax. It was like a 1 minute loop basically, and he's like just had such a huge amount of dopamine or whatever, and so he was it kind of damaged his brain pretty much because there's just too much for it. So he goes into the hospital and everything, and he ends up retiring from the laboratory and all that stuff because he's just kind of messed up a little bit. So it kind of shows it's a little bit, it has a little bit of a dangerous side to it. Now, Louise Fletcher, who is she's pretty much the head of the project that they're working on, and throughout the scene, you see she has like a heart condition, and she smokes like a chimney. She every scene she's in, she's smoking a cigarette, and if she's not smoking one, she's putting one out and lighting another one. Anyway, and she's got a heart condition, and she gets real angry because it comes to find out that the Cliff Robertson character, who's the owner of the laboratory, he's been like making deals behind everybody's back to get funding for the lab by involving the military industrial complex, more or less, and these kind of government people. And so when the product's all tested and all this stuff, and then Cliff Robertson tries to tell Louise Fletcher that that you're going to be working with this one guy he's a CIA spook kind of guy, and she was gone to college or whatever with him, and she did not care for the guy at all, and so she basically gets real worked up about it and gets that's really shows she's taking nitroglycerin pills or something for her heart and everything, and so she's just not liking what's going on with the government thing, and then the government starts in putting in more in getting more involved in the lab work and everything. So she's working late at night trying to proprietize her stuff and not wanting the government to get their hands on her discoveries and all that stuff. And she ends up burning herself on what do you call it? A welding iron type thing, a soldering iron. I'm sorry, and that it triggers a heart attack. And she tries to take her pills and everything, and it's not working. And so she goes and she purposely puts on the headset, and she throws a tape on there as she's having a heart attack and she turns on record. So she records herself having a heart attack and subsequent whatever after. So the next day they discover her dead there, and the tape's there, and it's obvious what she's done. And so they had they cut funeral service and all this other things, and Michael's name is Christopher Walken in the movie. He's Michael. He after they had the funeral and everything, he's back in the lab, and they're going through everything, and he's the director of the lab says, the project's yours now, Michael, so you got to work with these government guys or whatever. So Michael's just got in his mind, of course, he wants to play that tape of her she was on there of her death, obviously. I mean, because who wouldn't want to play that, right? So he starts to play it, hooks it up, and immediately starts having a heart attack. Because obviously you feel everything that happened to the person it's recorded to, and it sends his body into a real bad heart attack. And the guy that's helping him do that, he just pulls the headset off real fast and stops the whole thing and everything. But it's significant enough that it basically causes arrhythmia of his heart and everything like that. So he ends up in the hospital for a short period of time to get him back on the line and everything. And then when he goes back to the lab, when he's healed up a little bit, he finds out that basically the government people have just taken over everything, and they've installed security doors in all places, and they're rummaging through all of his and Louise Fletcher's lab notes and everything else about how they made it and all the stuff about it, and they've basically taken over the project more or less and locked him out for the most part. And unless he complies with what's going on with that, with the government intervention into the thing, and of course he's not down with that, and he wants to finish the tape off, and so he finds a way to kind of get the hold of the tape, but he knows since he's going to have that issue with giving him a heart attack, he decides he's going to fix the circuit board that controls the stuff going from one person to another. So that's when Louise Fletcher had her heart attack there. She ran over that machine and hooked herself up to it and recorded it all. So when Michael goes to play the tape again after the heart attack with him, he disconnects the stuff in the circuit board transfer thing that gives you the feelings and that kind of thing, so that he's not going to get a heart attack from it, but he can see what she visually sees. The government guys are like monitoring everything that he's doing in his lab. So when he starts to do that, play this tape and everything, to see the government guys they patch into what he's doing, and they use another person to monitor to see what's on, to see what happens to them, and record it and everything else. And they don't hook up, they don't disconnect the feeling part of it, the physical part of it. And so the person that when he watches it, like too long, and basically the person's spying, he has a massive heart attack and he dies. But Christopher Walken is able to watch almost most of the tape, and she starts having like her life flashing before her eyes, kind of thing. And there's like these memory bubbles. It goes into one and another, and there's different memories that she had, and you can see it starts going down through this other area, and it's moving away from the memories and going to something else, and then it gets cut off again. And because he did what he'd done, the director of the lab just completely you're done, you're out of here, you're fired now, because you weren't supposed to, you weren't supposed to look at that tape, you were told not to, and all this stuff. And so totally locked into in a secure area behind which the government had put in all these security rooms and clearances, and put in key cards to get into any place and anything like that at that point. So he's locked out of the lab entirely, but he still wants to see that tape, and he wants to finish it out. Scientific curiosity. So he makes a deal with him and Natalie Wood. They rekindled their, what they had, and so she, says she'll help him do it, and they concoct a plan to be able to get to this tape, and the tape's stored in like a special area, and it's and there's like all these a whole bunch of tapes at this point. Then, and there's a shelf and rack, and it's all computerized. It can put it in, program it in, this robotic arm puts it on the machine and will play it, and whatever tape you ask to play played. And there's some it shows these tapes in there, like a psychotic break or psychotic episode, behavior modification, dream states, night terrors, all these, there's some pretty odd things in there. And of course her death is one of those tapes. So he's kind of getting the idea that, because when he sees all those things in the lab, because he kind of hacks in the computer and sees the names of some of these tapes, he's like, what is this about? And they let him play a tape from in there once, because when he hacks in, they know he's hacked in immediately, and he's like, I'm gonna play a psychotic episode, and he just to see what that's about. Because he never heard of it. All he knew about was the sex tape and the roller coaster and all this benign stuff, and so he plays it in the toxic section. So he turns it on, and the people in there, they say, oh yeah, let him hack it. Let him play it for him. So, and it comes in, and it's just terror. It's somebody's getting strapped into this chair, and they're just gonna being tortured and whatnot, and it's heavy duty, terrifying. It really, and only within a second that he plays it before he pulls the headset off, it messes your. When they first plays the tape before it starts in the bad part of it, the director guy from the government says, if you're a government personnel, what you're about to see will be feel real and experience all this stuff, and if you are government personnel, do not play this tape. You've done, the certain clearance and everything. So I mean, this tape, because they know what happened. The one guy who watched her tape, Louise Fletcher's, and died. So they know that you could whatever a terrifying thing, you're going to experience it. So this psychotic episode thing was is bad, and within just a couple seconds of Christopher Walken playing it, he has pulled off his head, and he's like, he knows all that. I can't believe they're doing this kind of stuff. It's like brainwashing type of stuff he's thinking, And meanwhile, at that point is uh, his wife comes back home, and he leaves all the software and the gear up where he was looking at the tape and hacking the computer and stuff, and he goes downstairs to talk to his wife. So meanwhile, while he goes downstairs to talk to her, and she's telling her, I can't believe what they've done with my work, and they've turned it into something evil, and they're brainwashing stuff and horrific torture stuff or whatever. He doesn't really know what it is, but he knows it's not good. So while he's down there talking to his wife, this whole thing's still sitting upstairs, and the kids had just gotten out of the pool, and he goes upstairs and sees this thing, and he's been seeing this thing around there, and knows his dad's been working on, and so he puts the headset on and pushes resume play on the thing. Well, not knowing what's going to happen, he has no ability to remove the headset, and it's a good few minutes before they go upstairs and find him just basically catatonic, and just because of the psychotic episode tape that he's watching, and they end up taking him to the hospital, and he's in real bad shape, and the doctors say we got to keep him for several days, and they put him in a medically induced coma because he was just going off the rails, So at the time that they're sitting there in the hospital, the lab people show up to because they caught wind of what's going on, and he confronts them right there in the hospital, and just goes off on him, and what's going on? My boy is this and that, and these almost died from this, and what are you doing to my project? What have you done to my what we created, me and her, and so it's a confrontation, and they tell him, you need to take a vacation and all this, just because you need to get out here. So his wife convinces him, yeah, let's take a vacation, and they, of course, they put the lab puts and the government, they put tails on them to make sure that what they're doing, and where they're going and everything else, because he's already broken he's already hacked into the laboratory via computer, and he's already stolen the other tapes and watched the things, and so they know he's like, he still wants to see that other tape, and he's already been a problem, and they don't want him to be they've basically become a classified thing at this point because the government's so involved with it. So he does eventually hack back into it. Him and his wife hack into the computers, and they get to play the tape. And as it goes through the tape, it goes through past the memories of all hers and all that stuff, and basically goes through hell. The scenes of writhing people and blood and all this other nonsense, and then it goes up into space and off the planet, and he sees like angels and all this, everything's just wonderful and beautiful, and the tape ends, and he's just still going, and he's going into this fucking great white light, basically, this great light, and like the center of the galaxy type of thing, and all these angels are going in, or these souls are all flying into it, and at the same time, and his wife gets to him and starts, yells at him, yelling at him, because he's going for it. This is the thing is induced going into the light, basically. And even though the tape's over and things stop, he's going, he's dead. And but she screamed, and he can hear her, and so he comes back, and he loves, and now he's like, he knows that there is a afterlife now, and so he doesn't have to worry about it anymore. He can be happy, and he's solved the mystery of the universe of where you go and that kind of thing. So he's and it's a very uplifting and happy ending, and that's the end of the movie right there. Which in the 80s there was lots of we had happy endings back then, unlike nowadays movies. They had happy endings, and it was uplifting, and it was definitely a positive movie, except for the government intervention thing. I mean, it's your typical thing that the scientists make something, the government gets involved, and they're all evil and dark, and they have dark and evil plans for it. And for like I said, there's a lot of movies in '83 that came out, and so this one got a little bit lost in the shuffle for sure. I mean, we're talking movies like Scarface, Sleepaway Camp, All the Right Moves, The Dead Zone, which was another Christopher Walken movie that came out in October of the same year, '83. So he had this Brainstorm movie that came out September of '83, and then October, a month later, he comes out with the Dead Zone, which is filmed. Like I said, this film that came out, it was filmed in '81. So he basically had 2 films in 2 months coming out, back to back. Christopher Walken. So he was a popular guy. That's the Dead Zone. That was a Stephen King movie about a guy who could see the future and wanted to assassinate this president guy. Martin Sheen's in that. Okay, and then Never Say Never again was a James Bond movie, came out. Mr. Mom, you probably heard of him. Cujo, another Stephen King movie that came out that same year. Risky Business, which that's the first movie that Tom Cruise was in. Staying Alive, the John Travolta disco movie. Jaws 3, Valley Girl, Twilight Zone movie, which a famous actor and 2 kids were killed on the set of making that movie by a helicopter. Can't think of his name right now. Octopussy, that was another James Bond movie, came out that same year. Blue Thunder, that was about a helicopter that could spy on people. Star Wars Return of the Jedi came out that year. War Games came out that year, which probably everybody knows that one. A movie called Videodrome came out, which I think is a really cool movie. It's very, very underrated with James Wood and Deborah Harry from Blondie is in that movie. And it's really weird movie, Videodrome. The Hunger, that was a vampire movie with David Bowie was in that, and the music by the Bauhaus. And that's just partial. There's a lot more movies that came out that of 1983. A lot more movies, and names you would probably recognize if you're my age. So that's the synopsis of the movie and the overall feeling of it. So I'm gonna go about more into the what I think it's about. And to me, it's not just about this invention of this really cool virtual reality type of thing. It's the implications of it, and it kind of goes into a little bit with the government and with the toxic tapes that they have, the psychotic episode and behavior modification and all that kind of stuff. That's something now that we're kind of dealing with today. Almost done with it. All right, so this is what I get from that movie is this, which we've all heard of this, and it's a very dark plot when it comes to when you think about those the toxic tapes that are in the library there, what they could do and what they're capable of doing, what their ultimate outcome could be, which is the trauma-based mind control. And the psychotic episode would completely be a start to that. And you see that as what is going around today with these things that are happening around us that we don't have any proof of it, but there's a lot of things that just for some reason people just snap and do these strange and odd things. And if you think about it, if there's possibly, MK Ultra is a real thing that happened in the happened in the 60s. Just then they started these kind of experiments with people and in this field of control. A lot of government documents have come out about this program, and so we know it existed, and we know that there was a lot of things surrounding it that our government was doing to people to find out how they could do that. They were using LSD and other psychotropic drugs to try to influence people to do certain things. And you can kind of see how if they had something like that device that's in the movie of Brainstorm there, something you could really, really get somebody messed up quick and just break them down with that, the trauma, and that trauma, then you build them back up. That's how the MK Ultra all works, is trauma-based mind control. They traumatize somebody real bad with whatever methods they're doing it, and then they implant. Once you've got somebody down to broken into pieces, basically, they put them back together and insert whatever they want into them. And like in some cases, they've had what the beta kitten they call it, which is the demure sex slave type of female, and then maybe assassins that could just be pointed in a direction and just a keyword and sent off to do whatever bidding they've been basically programmed to do. It's speculated that Marilyn Monroe might have been like a victim of this processing of MK Ultra and the beta kitten processing kind of thing. And they do say that she was a CIA asset, and there were other ones that were, who knows? There's who knows what that how deep and far it goes, and with like anything else in our government, I don't think when they start doing something, they really ever stop doing something. So, and if they were successful with this kind of a thing, and what they were doing back then, and you look and kind of you look at that the brainstorm, that would be, that takes all the work out of it. Really, you don't have to like do something differently to implant these. They don't have to do something. They don't have to do anything differently to implant these things in people's minds because of that. That technology that they've got in brainstorm. But this is, we all know what this movie is, and that's basically the same principle. They're doing making Alex watch all this horrible stuff and programming his mind to get sick when he sees this horrible stuff. It's the opposite of what you're, but it's the same principle and everything, that they're going to control his mind, control his behavior, and they're stop crime or whatever. So you do the same thing in the opposite direction, and control the mind and break it down to the point where you can set these people, they don't even know that they've got this stuff in their mind to do something that's buried down in there, and they have some kind of a trigger to it activates them. Of course, we all recognize this guy. There's speculation now that's come out about, there's a book called Laurel Canyon, and it's all the things that were going on in 68, 69 in Laurel Canyon, California, and they had a film laboratory there, a film studio actually, that the military had there since the 40s. There was a propaganda film studio. It was run by the military, and then Laurel Canyon, and lots of famous stars were in there as doing voices, and they did all this work for the U.S. government in that studio, and they made propaganda films. Nobody even knew it was there, of course, at the time. It was still operating up until, who knows? They say the late 60s or whatever, but I mean, our government is, like I said, they start doing something, they don't usually stop too soon with it. So in this guy here, it's speculated that he was part of a psyop of some sort, and that it was all put together to put fear in people. I mean, it's a fear tactic on a massive scale. Instead of just like one person doing trauma-based mind control on it, you do mind-based trauma control on the whole entire country, because of fearing these killer hippies, So that was it said that this is a psyop, and it causes fear, and then they got everybody to change and go to San Francisco with the love. So that's what they do, is they give you this fear, and then they give you this happiness, this love thing. So you try to hold on to that, and the fear thing is you break down your thing, and that's how it starts. You start losing your will and your common sense or whatever, and so that they can more easily put ideas in your mind. So if you're scared of the Manson family, of course, and you're fearing all these hippies around every corner, but then on the other hand, you got all the peace and love hippies running around all over Haight-Ashbury. It's a dichotomy, and it messes with people's minds, and that's the fear-based trauma mind control. They also had the MK Ultra. They're called Project Monarch, and this is the Project Monarch is signified by this butterfly, and you see a lot of the butterfly symbology in this MK Ultra. And you see it a lot on these the stars of today. The female, the Britney Spears and the Katy Perry's and the Madonnas and the Christina Aguilera's of the world, and they got the butterfly on their neck or on their the back of their lower back. That's a symbol. Is symbology of the MK Ultra thing. You'll also, if you the White Rabbit, as we all that's from Alice in Wonderland, of course. The White Rabbit, that Alice in Wonderland tale of going down the rabbit hole and through the looking glass and all that stuff. That's all. You see that symbology all throughout this MK Ultra thing as well, with these with current stars, and like Britney Spears, for instance. She's her dad had her committed. Basically, he had control over her and all that kind of stuff because she was she's very out there, and she was controlled by her own father, and she was one of these Disney kids, and it's a whole group of these Disney kids that came up through that, started as children in like the Mickey Mouse Club and all that kind of stuff, and they are all seem to have these problems later in life of just kind of going off the rails. And Christina Aguilera, Justin Timberlake, I can't think of another one right off the bat with the girl from Lindsay Lohan, all Disney kids. And there's a lot of speculation with that and what that's involved there, and the whole beta kitten programming thing. So this is a deep rabbit hole when it comes to this MK Ultra. But relating it, so I can see how in the movie that they with that device, and I think that they were in a way with the way that the government and military taken over the project of it, that they could use it to easily put programming into people with way more with total ease, because you just have somebody doing something like and the other person watches it, and you keep playing that for them. Say something like going out and doing taking a tool. I would say this delicately, a pew kind of tool, and going into a place and doing something that is not good with it to maybe a lot of individuals in there, and you could just have them. You have a person that goes through a stage, and they go through the stage, and they do act out a scenario with the pew and actors, and then they play it for this person, and they play it again and again, and then you just get a psychotic episode thing and all that. Break them down, put this in, and essentially program them with a program. It goes right into their mind, deep as it can be, the feeling, taste, touch, and everything. You've already, and then suppress it with psychotropic drugs or whatever, and then you have a code word or a picture or an image or something, and they wind them up and send them on their way. And if you have an agenda that you want certain things to be put out and not being able for people to have them, then you have people. You want these people to keep doing these things to give reason that for the people with the agenda to get rid of those things. So it is when I see these things that are happening in our world today, currently, and just for no reason that you can seem to find these people just go into an occupied space of innocent people, and what I'm saying, and for apparently no reason, or no good reason anyway that you can think of. And then these people that do that, they all seem to have certain characteristics that seem to be matching the same kind of things. And when you see that they all have these same characteristics, you got to wonder: are these people doing this out of a natural thing, or is there something that has induced them to do these things? Because when I was a kid, we grew up in people went to school and they had like they go do target practice after school, so they'd have them in their window of their pickup trucks, on school campus, and it was not, it was right there. They had a bird gun, and I'm saying they were way more common for younger people to have those for target practice and things of that nature. So they were on school campuses, they were everywhere, and there was this current thing that we're seeing now never happened. It just didn't happen at all. And then we had this school in Colorado. It was a big deal. If you remember that that plant, it's called the Columbine, and you see that, and that was so heavily covered by the media. It was helicopters flying overhead, and the wall-to-wall coverage of that, and it was just a big deal, and it was like the first time that had happened. So it was that was traumatic for the people in the country, and saw that, and lots of people saw that. So there's your trauma for the population, and it started doing, and then that how now we all know that since that incident occurred, we are now in 2023, and these things are happening like every other day. And just in the past week here of April of 2023, we've had 3 different ones that are mass events, more or less, and the government, that's all they can say anymore. That's just, we gotta have control of these things, control of these. They want to control the tool and not the person using the tool, and they're harping on it real hard every time, and so I don't believe it's organic that these things are happening. I don't believe it's an organic thing, because it's too much to their agenda. Yeah. So let me be totally clear that their agenda is the Second Amendment. They want that to go away, and because obvious reasons. And it's not because they care about saving anybody or anything like that. That isn't the reason. The reason they want to go away is the reason that it was put there in the first place. And that's why we didn't go like Australia during this last thing, and all these other countries didn't get totally steamrolled over by that. But they want us to be completely do what we're told. And they have a big problem because there's a lot of people in this country that believe in the Second Amendment, and they are prepared to use the Second Amendment in what's necessary ways. And so that's why I believe, all this is my opinion, of course, but in my opinion, they are, of course, what was his name, Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste. These people have not only they've perfected the crisis. It's the Hegelian dialect, the problem, reaction, solution, and it seems that these mass events they come too much together, too close together, and it's a copycat, this and that. It's like it's nonsense. There's an agenda here, and in my opinion, they are helping the agenda along by putting certain people into situations, or I believe they basically wind them up and send them on their way. And I believe this goes back to a lot of things, back to the Reagan thing, the Hinckley thing, the John Lennon thing. They all, and what they all have what in common? They all just happen to have like the Catcher in the Rye in their libraries or on their persons or whatever. Um, that's when it's like Occam's razor. When you've inspired all the extraneous things, then the one thing's left. That's got to be the truth. And how many coincidences can there be before you got to go? This is not. Doesn't seem like it's a coincidence anymore. It's like very scripted, and the same thing happens most of the time. The person is taken out in the event, and so they don't ever get to ask them what happened. And there's a amount of people that are hurt, and then of course the government comes out yelling for that we need more control and those things, and we got to limit the people who used to get those things, and again and again and again. Less and less they've got to talk about the victims even of these things, and less and less, of course, they talk about the perpetrators of these things, their motivations and everything. They don't even want to know that really, because then if we knew their motivations, maybe we would be questioning it a lot more. Just one last thing here. Recently there was one of these mass events in Kentucky, and this person that has issues with what they think they are when it comes to being a male or a female. They were questioning that, and they went into a Christian school and proceeded to unalive 6 people, 3 kids and 3 adults. And these people, they immediately came out on the news with pictures of this person who was a woman who wanted to be a man, and they made that clear that was the case. And they also had gone to this person's residence and found a bunch of stuff that was showing that they would plan this out and everything. And they had a manifesto as well, which is if anybody doesn't know, a manifesto is basically a plan, and it says what your motives are, why you're doing this, and you're declaring something. Well, this manifesto has yet to be released to the public. Everything else was been right off the bat. They told you all about it. They had 2 long rifles and a Glock, which is very the strange. What's strange to me is that they went in there when you got 2 what I'm just going to use what you would call assault weapons. Okay, but that's because that's what the government calls them. They were just long rifles and probably and semi-automatic, whatever. Which probably had maybe 30-round clips in them. Then they also had a Glock, probably an 11-round clip in that or so. They can be more or less. So just on those 2 things, if they didn't have extra clips or anything, we're talking that's 60, 72 rounds. And there's only 6 people laying down. That kind of, if you've got a problem and you've got 72 rounds, why are only 6 people laying down? It seems odd to me that would be the case. Now the police did respond pretty quickly to that, and they took out that person pretty rapidly, and there's police body cam footage of that, and you can kind of see what's going on, and but it just seems to me if you're going to do a mass event the place that she was in, there was nothing stopping her from continuing on before those cops got there. It could have been quite a bit worse. And it makes me wonder if maybe something was had made her to do it in the first place. Maybe it was slipping, and maybe something creeped into her consciousness and realized that what was going on was not good and stopped. I don't know. Of course I don't know. It'd be nice if they released that manifesto. We could know what was really going on with that. But it most likely, because this was a Christian school, and she was a person in this community that's confused about things. There's that. But to me, I feel like there's something more to it. there's just something more to it. And that was that one. They proceeded 2 more after that in different areas. So it was you know, it was just too contrived and too set up, in my opinion. Like I said, all my opinion. I don't know anything. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, and I'm certainly I don't have any evidence of anything. So this is just speculation on my part. I just start to put the dots together and put a little line here, and they start to connect, and I can kind of see a picture going on here. And when the really ultimate thing came out was the White House came out and instead of saying that they were, you know, they were worried about the victims and talked to the families, and you know, we're prayers are in our prayers, like, you know, the standard stuff they always say. They came out and said they stand with the trans community that's under a lot of difficulty right now, and they stand with them, and which was very odd. I thought that they didn't acknowledge the fact that 3 children, 9 years old, and 3 adults in the 60s were shot in this Christian school, and instead of saying anything about them, they're talking about the person that did it. That to me sounds a little bit agenda-wise, you know. So that's what I think about that. So anyway, I'm trying to get a lot of subscribers. So anybody that sees this video, I'd like you to share it out if you could. You know, put the like button on there, because I guess that helps the algorithm, and I need to get my videos out more and more and more. And if you leave a comment, that helps too. If you have any ideas about videos to do in the future, because it's going to get warm and I'm going to start doing some more scrap videos and commentary videos. But I thought I'd try this movie one first, and you know, I'm kind of doing it with on the low scale budget as I can, because I'm not I don't have all the technical equipment to do this kind of thing. But we'll see how it looks and how it turns out, and see what we can do with it. And like I said, like and subscribe and share and all that kind of stuff. I appreciate it, and have a good day, guys. Bye.